Hey, friends, welcome back to the Basswood Carving Chatter podcast. Um, First, I want to apologize. I know I haven't put up a video. I've got some emails, people asking me about when you're going to do more videos. When you're going to, did you quit? Are you done? Well, I'm not done. I'm in this for the long haul, but things been really busy with my bait company. I just really what started off as a habit or a hobby turned into a habit now. And just business has been good. So I've been really busy and got a couple vendor events that I'm going to go set up tables at. So had to get my stock up and been really busy with that. But interesting enough, I was looking for some projects to start carving and everything. So I got a few little quick carves coming up for you. But I really been interested in kind of doing a little more involved carving. And as you guys know, I like to fish. I mean, that's one of the big things our family loves to do is go fishing. And that's one of the reasons I got into making the lures and doing the baits was just so we'd have our own baits and stuff. So, but I also decided that I kind of wanted to, one of the guys from my carving club started carving some fish. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I'd like to carve a few things and maybe carve a couple fish and maybe even turn them into some swim baits, make some molds, do some things like that. But I really wanted to expand my horizons on carving fish. And which brings me to my guest today. Um, I started searching YouTube trying to find guys that were doing fish carvings and came across this man's channel. And I was first off, I binge watched all of his videos on wood carving and fish carving, so much that I didn't even realize he had some other things on his channel. But I was really impressed with his his final results, and I thought, wow, this is a guy that I can pick up some things from. And most of you guys know that my channel is mostly knife and gouge carving, and probably the scale of my carvings will be a lot smaller than what he's doing. But when you're into carving a big old chunk of wood, you're going to need something that's that helps speed up the process a little bit. And to cut them with a gouge and knife, as you guys know, is not quite as fast. And so that Danny Harris from Danny Harris Arts is with me today, and we're going to talk about some carving. Now, Danny's does a lot of his with power carving, and hey, I'm a carver, so that means you take a piece of wood and you turn something into it, and whatever tools you use to get to the end result, you know, is carving. And so Danny's going to be my first power carver on there. So you knife and gouge guys, you know, you'll enjoy this too, because I really was fascinated with him. We've been chatting a little bit and um, about some of his stuff he's doing, and I was really impressed, especially with his painting and detail work that he does towards the end of his process. So, Danny, welcome to the Carving Chatter. Glad to have you on today, and
Well, thanks for having me.
talking about carving, whether it's a fish or a deer. You know, um, hopefully we can pick up some good tips from you. And you guys, as you know, I'm always out to help uh, YouTube channels. That's another one of my big things is I want to help get them out there. So Danny has got, and we'll do a little more in depth on his channel here in a few. But you guys, if you haven't subscribed to Danny after you watch this podcast, make sure you get over there and give him a sub. I'll have all the links in the description and everything for his channel where you guys can check him out. But Danny, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I'm excited, man. It's always exciting when I get to watch somebody on YouTube, and next thing you know, we're sitting here face to face on computer chatting
Yeah.
about carving, because you know carving is just so much enjoyment. I'm sure you being an arts guy, you know, your enjoyment you get out of carving. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So what got you started into carving, and your maybe some of your little bit of, because we've already talked, maybe to give us a little bit of in depth on your arts background and the things that you do.
Well, I've always been an artist, so to speak. I've always painted and drawn as long as I've been able to hold a pencil.
Yeah.
And painting was kind of where I ended up, and I've sold some stuff in galleries, and most of my subject matter is kind of reflects what I like.
Yeah.
You mentioned fishing. I'm a huge fisherman and I hunt. So that kind of reflects what I do.
Right.
And so I started out painting fish, deer, ducks, you name it, landscapes. And then for 45 years, my daughter, who is a huge Harry Potter fan, and she owns a lot of movie memorabilia. And if you know anything about Harry Potter, they all have these magic wands.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know what'd be cool? I had a little old Dremel laying around. I thought it'd be cool maybe to carve her a personalized wand.
Yeah.
So I cut a piece of walnut off a tree out back and carved her a Harry Potter wand from her favorite mythical creature on there. It's a thestral. So I carved it. She loved it. I gave it to her for Christmas, and she loved it. I ended up carving 3 more, and then I decided, you know, I'm gonna try a fish. So I decided to try a fish, and when I got finished, I'm thinking, wow, this looks great. You know, and people loved it. Everybody was just amazed by it. But the more I looked at it, the more mistakes I saw. So I decided to carve another one. So anyway, I just got in, and I got hooked on it. Pardon the pun, hooked on fish carving. So that was about about a year and a half ago that I started. So I'm new at this. So.
Yeah. So what was the first fish that you carved when you say you carved?
The first fish I carved was a crappie, a white crappie. Let's see if I can get this in there.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So, and it was just a piece of pine 2x6.
Now is that the one on your video that you did on the crappie?
No, I did not videotape this one. The other one was much
so
bigger.
Real. I swear it looks almost like
and there's there's a lot of mistakes in it. On this particular one, the fins are plexiglass.
Okay.
And so you probably can't tell it, but they have a little bit of translucence to them.
Right.
So the first couple fish that I did, the next one I did was a bluegill, and I carved the fins out of acrylic then as well. But I met a guy through a power carving group on Facebook, and he kind of started mentoring me. He's from New York, and he's a master carver. But he was kind of talking me into, you need to go to competitions.
Yeah.
And but you can't use plexiglass for fins. It has to be all woods, except for the eyes.
Right.
So I switched over to carving with the fins out of wood. So
right.
But yeah, that was the first one I did.
That's beautiful work, man.
And that's just cheap Hobby Lobby.
It looks
99-cent paint. So
yeah, it looks so real. That's cool. Yeah. So I know we had a show up here close to me. It's actually a couple hours away. It's called Artistry in Wood, and it was a big carving show. I mean, it's a huge event. I think the last one was the last one they were ever going to do, but my wife and I went up there a couple times, and they had some beautiful fish carving scenes, you know, with them and that. And that always kind of stuck in my mind. I was like, man, that would be so cool to like the one I envision myself doing is I want to do like a little couple different size bluegill and put them on a piece of like a driftwood. A lady in our carving club did one. It looked pretty cool. So I'm kind of envisioning that's kind of going to be my first big project, is to kind of carve them and then actually mount them on some kind of thing. Cause it like, and we'll talk about your competition, but that just creating that motion of a scene is like a whole nother part of just sitting down carving a flat fish, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And Danny recently went to a competition. Was that your first competition that you
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
to?
First one.
And
Yeah.
he's got a video up on it, so you go to his channel, you can check it out. But he actually went to his first competition, and tell him what you got, Danny. What place did you get?
Well, the competition was the World Taxidermy and Fish Carving Championship. It's held every 2 years. There's people from all over the world that come to this thing. And I entered another crappie. I had a white crappie that I had done, and then I also done a largemouth. And you can enter as many as you want, but it just two was. I mean, I was down to like the day before I left finishing the bass. Oh, so that's how close that one was.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting for the bass. I won, and I just entered the novice division.
Right.
So it's the world championship, but I was in the novice division. There's novice, intermediate, and then open, which are the master
Right.
guys.
Right.
So, but I ended up winning for the bass. I won first place, and it also got best of show. And then the crappie got second place. So
Yeah.
I was really surprised, especially since I had one of the past judges had come in, and he had taught one of the seminars we were taking, and we went over to view all the um, carvings after they got them all set up. And I said, "Give me your honest opinion on these." And he tore them apart. And I
Yeah.
was ready to pack up. I was ready to pack up and go
Like,
home.
oh man, I ain't gonna tell him which one's mine.
Yeah. No, I went to it. I said, I showed him the two I
Oh,
had,
okay.
and I said, so give me your honest opinion. And he, man, like I say, he tore them apart, and
Yeah.
he's, you know, I mean, he gripped them, all the mistakes, all the just, and he said the crappie, this one you may get a second place out of the crappie. So when we went back over after the judging, and I walked up to the table, and I saw the red ribbon for the crappie and the blue ribbon on the bass, first
Yeah.
place. And then later that night at the awards banquet, uh, they called my name for best of show, and that was just kind of blew me away. And as I was leaving the show, my wife, I'm kind of looking around the room. My wife says, "Who are you looking for?" I said, "I'm looking for the judge that told me that I wasn't going to win anything. I want
Yeah.
him to carry this plaque back to the hotel room for me."
Yeah. Was he one of the actual judges that judged your carving, or was it
No,
just a group of judges?
no, there was two judges that carved it that judged it. He
Right.
was a past judge. His name was Bob Berry. I don't know if you've ever heard his name or not.
I have not, but I'm not
He's
real.
actually the one that caused, and he's good. I mean, he's won several world champions himself. He's really good. And I had heard a rumor that they added the fish carving division in this taxidermy competition because he entered a carved fish out of wood
Uh,
and won and won a world championship with it, and they didn't even realize that it wasn't wood.
huh.
So they ended up adding the division fish
Yeah.
carving
Yeah.
so that fish carvers could come in.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. I would recommend anybody that's out there that does fish carving. If you can go, by all means go, because there were seminars. You
Yeah.
you
That would be
learn so
cool.
much. The other carvers, you just learn so
Yeah.
much. I learned a
Yeah.
ton. I learned more
Yeah.
in that 5 days I was there than I did in the past year.
Yeah.
Just doing it on my own.
Yeah, the seminars are awesome. I'm a seminar guy. Like I go to any kind of seminar. Like even when I was in martial arts all those years, I'd go to every because there's just so much you can pick up. Little, like even if you think you're the best carver in the world, there's somebody out there that can teach you one or two little
Oh
things
yeah,
that you're like,
yeah,
oh, wow, I didn't even see that, or I didn't even notice that. What kind
yeah.
of tips what kind of things did it did he say about your carving that you took back and said, well, maybe he's right on this, and I'll change when I do it the next time?
The biggest thing was the motion and the artistry of the fish.
Right.
It's not like a taxidermist. They judge them completely different. I don't know if you ever look at a taxidermy fish, their fins are all stiff and they may have some curve to them, and then they just stick them on a piece of driftwood and call it good. Well, these guys will judge your habitat base as much as they judge the fish itself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of remember something about that in the in your video.
Yeah, so I mean that the thing I got dinged on the bass was the base, but it was just because it was a last minute deal, and I just threw it together and stuck it on there and went. And it should have been. I mean, the seminars. One of the seminars says start your base first, and then do your fish. Put your fish on it.
Hey,
so, which I still haven't done that yet.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. So, like when you're looking at you know, because I've watching your videos. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about what you do in your videos because I want people to go watch them. But how do you determine that motion? How does that just something? Do you watch video? Do you look at pictures? How do you determine?
I kind of get an idea in my head of what I want. You know, what I want it to look like, and then it depends a lot on the pattern too. I've got a lot of patterns that I have. I draw a lot of my own patterns, and then I just kind of get it in my head, pre-plan it. I may even sketch it out a little bit and pre-plan it.
Yeah,
and how I want it to be look like it's moving.
Right.
I want it to look as natural as possible.
Yeah, and that bass I thought really had some good motion to it, and I think the one fella complimented you on the motion.
I mean, he said it could have had more.
Yeah.
but it was just an angle thing. But it was and I was the only one there that did an open mouth through the gills, carved the gills and everything. There was not another fish in there that had that done. And I think that was probably what pushed it over the top for the best show.
Right. What type of woods is your favorite type of wood when you're carving? Because I know one of them I see you do balsa wood. Did you use balsa wood on?
I did one. The second fish I carved was the bluegill. It was the first video that I done also.
Okay.
I did that out of balsa wood, and then after that, I started using Tupelo. I can't find Tupelo around me. I have to order it. Arkansas has some of the biggest Tupelo swamps in the country, but I can't find Tupelo locally.
That's crazy.
So I order it, and so that's what I'm using. Exclusively since.
Yeah, I think that's similar to basswood, isn't it? The Tupelo or.
Yeah, it's similar.
Did you ever carve basswood?
I have not. I'd like to try it sometime.
Yeah, I mean that's what mostly we use in different carvings that we do. In fact, that's what I'm going to do.
Carving?
Yeah, is basswood, and there's a company out there. Actually, I got a video with 10 good places to buy basswood. There's a company out there called Heineke Wood, and man, they got some of the best basswood, and the grain's small, you know. And it, of course, I've never done like power carving on it, but I have used my Dremel to like clean stuff up and use a little sanding disc and things like that. So yeah, it's really good. But I know a lot of bird carvers use the Tupelo wood, so I've never carved.
Well,
it before.
It takes the grain, the detail, really good also, and it holds the detail.
Yeah.
The balsa wood was hard to get real fine detail in it because especially after you sand it down.
Yeah,
I mean it looks fine, it looks okay, but it's just it doesn't have that. You want something crisp, sharp,
something to hold up. Yeah, because I make balsa wood baits too, and I know, like, I've tried to carve gills and things like that on some of my baits, and it's just like, oh man, I hate carving on this stuff or
Yeah.
trying to put fine detail in because it's so soft, you
Yeah.
know. But then once you sand it up, seems to sand pretty easy and stuff. So,
Yeah.
and then I know the guy at our carving club, he used poplar on his fish. He did a salmon, and I know he did a bass, a salmon, and I think he was working on a walleye. And I asked him, and he was like, I like poplar. So I've never carved on that either, but I hear that's kind of a harder soft wood, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
never used it either. I wouldn't mind trying some on that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Um, so when you what you say you started carving fish, then what did you just to say, okay, well, I want to do bigger fish, I want to do more varieties of different fish, and how did you go about progressing forward, guess you'd say?
Well, since I'm a fisherman here in the South, in Arkansas where I am, I I want to kind of concentrate on the local species,
Native, yeah.
like
Uh-huh.
the of course bass and bluegill and brim were the first ones that popped in my head.
Yeah.
We have a lot of walleye here, um, and catfish is really popular down here. I haven't done a catfish yet, but I
Yeah, big
plan on
flathead.
doing a catfish. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just finished up a walleye a couple weeks ago. I'll pull this up here.
Oh yeah.
So, and this is Tupelo. I haven't done the habitat based for it yet. Um, I had a little trouble with the teeth. That's hard to do, but what I've done, what I've done on the teeth is I found I went down to our local river, Arkansas River down here, and there's always some gar floating dead on the bank or somebody
Oh
catching one
yeah.
throw it. I went and cut a little piece of a gar snout off and brought it back and pulled the teeth out of it. And that's
Hey,
what I use in the
yeah,
teeth
that's good thinking.
of the walleye. But
That's good thinking. I remember the first walleye I caught. My grandpa said, "Don't," and then I was too late. I stuck my finger in his mouth
yeah,
and found out he's got teeth. And he was about to say, "Don't stick your thumb," because I'm used to grabbing a bass
don't
or
thumb them.
something,
Yeah,
thumb
yeah,
in. And I did that with a walleye, first one, and man, he got me good.
yeah,
He said,
yeah.
"Well, you learned your first lesson about catching walleye. Don't stick your thumb in their mouth." But
So
yeah,
that's the first walleye I've carved. So
that was
the
good
next one
thinking.
I'll do the bigger one. And
Yeah, creative thinking. You have to go catch a bigger gar.
yeah, I think a live one that I had trouble with getting the teeth out. They were
Kind of dried up.
they dried up and they would break off and I
Yeah,
think if I'd done a fresh one, they may come out easier.
yeah,
A lot of guys use like thorns off a rose bush,
yeah.
or I even tried to experiment doing. I put a bead of silicone on a piece of wood, then I would stick a toothpick in it and pull it up, and it would leave the little peak. It
Yeah,
looked good, but they didn't stick well, and they were flimsy, and
yeah,
the ends would curl over on them after you painted them, and it just didn't. So I ended up using the teeth from the gar on that one.
yeah. I think my buddy Rick told me he used epoxy, some kind of epoxy for
Mhm.
his teeth and his walleye because man, they looked so good. I was like, "How'd you get them
He made them
teeth?"
out of epoxy.
Yeah, somehow like he was saying something about how he got it to like it was like a 5 minute epoxy or something, and he kind of
Hmm.
stretched it up and it dried in that particular shape, I think is what he told me. I was like,
I'd
wow,
like to
that's
see that.
then
I'd
he
like to
went
see
back
that.
and said he kind of polished them down, kind of cleaned them up and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, I imagine that the details and trying to do the teeth and stuff would be hard. How now you say you carve your fins now out of wood?
Yes. Yeah. These are carved out of wood. So everything I do now on the fins is wood because they have to be in competition.
Yeah.
Um, so and I've gotten used to it. I like you can't you can't get the transparency that you
Right.
would, so you kind of have to fake it on the
on the coloring.
on the coloring,
Yeah.
um, which and the judges expect that, or they realize that, so they
Yeah.
take that into in consideration.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it now. I actually like the wood better than the acrylic now. So
Yeah.
the acrylic carved easy too. I was really surprised at how easy that carved. I mean, it carved almost just like wood did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I watch a guy, his name's Marling Bates.
oh
Um,
yeah, I watch him.
you
Yeah,
seen him? Yeah. And
yeah,
he does makes his out of acrylic a lot of
yeah,
times and stuff. And
yeah,
sometimes he'll even make a mold out of it and make a, like a resin cast
yeah. Did the
on
resin cast? Yeah,
the fins and stuff too. So yeah.
yeah. I subscribe to his channel. I really like.
Yeah. Yeah, he's funny. He's funny and he's always coming up with some crazy stuff to carve
Yeah,
and make and stuff. So but yeah. So which project are you doing one now that you're working on?
yeah. I'm working on a couple. I've done. This is a commission piece. And we've got a guy that raises African cichlids,
Oh yeah.
and he asked me to do a couple African cichlids. So I've got this one finished. I've got another one that I'm working on, and then I started a white-tailed deer yesterday.
Oh
So
wow. Yeah.
it's going to be a buck. Still need. I mean, it's just in the rough stages. I've
Yeah.
never carved one. It's another one. It's the first for me. So
Yeah.
um, I'm kind of just, and I started not to. Matter of fact, I think the video just posted today on the first part of this.
Okay.
Um, I started not to record it just because I didn't know how it was going to turn out. But part of my
Yeah.
deal on this channel, on my channel, is to document my growth as a new carver, and you know, somebody new watching it come on and if they learn from my mistakes, then they've learned something.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
decided just to put the mistakes in there as well. That way they
Right.
can see. Um, so if I mess up and it doesn't look and it looks like crap when I get done with it, it's
Yeah.
gonna look like it's gonna be a crappy looking video. So
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of the same thing with me is when I started carving, I was like, I'm not doing this to teach people how to do it. I'm more or less just documenting my carving. And
yeah,
when I go back and look at some of my earlier videos, I'm like, oh gosh, man, that was terrible. But it's good
yeah,
to see yourself, the growth that you achieve, even just trying to make a good quality video. I
yeah.
mean, of course, that's right up your alley, right? You do videography work and stuff too.
Well, I'm behind the camera though,
Right.
99.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't. When my first few videos I done was just basically time lapse, no talking,
Yeah.
and so. But I got a couple comments, people asking me questions about how I did it, and
Yeah.
so it, I decided to start commenting and talking about them. But
Yeah.
man, that was the hardest thing for me in the world for me
Uh,
to do,
yeah, I
to get on
agree.
and talk to that lens
Yeah.
and with nobody around.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still not any good at it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and especially if you're out in public somewhere and doing it, people looking at you like,
Yeah,
what's wrong with that
yeah,
guy? He's talking to the camera. But I think more people nowadays realize he's probably doing a YouTube channel.
yeah.
What got you started to do YouTube? I mean, is that you just wanted to put your videos up to
Well,
preserve
well,
or
I originally started the channel back in 2014, but it was and I since I draw and paint a lot, and I thought maybe I would put up painting videos that I do, and I just never did. I never started it,
yeah.
um, and it just sat idle until a year and a half ago when I decided that hey, I'm going to record after I'd done the crappie, and I started to do the bluegill, which was my next fish. I decided I'd try and record it and put it on YouTube and
Yeah.
just see how it does, and uh, just going from there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I always encourage people is to, do YouTube channels just in any kind of carving that they do or painting or whatever, because it like gives you a place to, look back and look at your achievements and how you've improved and things
Mhm.
like that. And not only that, I watch a lot of YouTube. I don't think I even hardly watch regular TV much anymore. I mean, I'm
That's
just like,
kind of me.
I'm
Yeah.
always searching for somebody painting baits or carving something. And I mean, my subscription list on my channel, I got to do a long scroll if I'm looking for somebody in particular, but
Yeah.
I just watch a lot because it's enjoyable when people share their arts, with you.
Yeah.
And the
Well,
carving.
I was watching Marlon Bates and Mike Stinnett on Stinnett Sticks
Yeah.
2 or 3 years before I ever started wood carving myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it kind of inspired me. And they always was always kind of inspiring to watch them do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I said, you get a chance to share your art with somebody else, and no matter what it is, what kind of carving you're doing or whatever, everybody does something a little different or likes a different kind of wood or just likes it, and I think that's what makes it unique. And there's the carving community, it's growing a lot more than it used to, but back when
Yeah.
YouTube started, as far as our wood carving guys, there was only a few on there,
Yeah.
that really. So I always encourage new carvers and stuff like, hey, start your channel, start
Yeah.
documenting your work, for your family or whatever, down the road, you look back at it and you get to see your progress on, you know, where you
Well,
are. And
I know a lot of people get in it to make money, and somewhere down the line, 4 or 5 years from now, maybe if I get enough subscribers and enough followers, that yeah, okay, I won't mind the extra
yeah,
income coming in, but
yeah,
that's not what I'm in it for. So
yeah. Well, I know like on this channel, you know, um, I waited for a while and then I found out one day when I was driving around was like YouTube's putting videos on my or ads and videos on commercials
hmm
on my videos anyway.
yeah,
Like when you start up, is a darn ad at the beginning or an ad at the
yeah,
end, and I was like, well, if they're going to do that, then I at least want to, I'll take a little of that ad revenue, I
yeah,
mean, it
yeah,
ain't much, but, um, I'm always surprised at, like how much they actually played ads on my videos before I had an opportunity to monetize it. So,
yeah.
I mean, some people, you can always skip the ads if they come up or whatever. So, but yeah, it's
Which I
like,
do.
yeah, me too. And some people, get into it with thinking that, oh, I'm going to make all this money on YouTube. And it's not, it's not. When you look at how much time we put into editing a video and setting everything up and getting started and
hmm
re-recording things, I mean, sometimes with the carving, it's like you either start all over again or like you said,
Yeah,
you leave your mistakes in there for people to see,
yeah.
and that. So your power carving, and what type of how do you decide like what type of bits to use and what works best? And I know you got a video on the scales on how you make your little tool for the scales. That was
hmm
one of the things that I was really interested in, was like when I seen that, I was like, oh, okay. He makes his wood burner for his scales and stuff. Um,
Well,
but
I bought them at first, um, but they just don't have a big enough variety after I started looking at fish scales. One particular fish, like on the walleye, they're for their size, they're a particular size, and there may be 4 or 5 or 6 different sizes and shapes on one fish,
yeah, right,
and you can't get that in the commercial stuff. So
right.
I had bought a DVD series from Ed Woodlicky. I think that's how you say his name. But it was on carving uh, fins and fish, and he had a little series in there on making your own scale tips. So wow, I can do that. So I bought the material. It takes a special kind of wire. So I bought the material and tried it, and I do all my scale tips now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good video that you put up about that. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I think I'll be able to do that because
yeah,
I do a little wood burning on my carvings and add some
hmm
details in, highlights and shadows and things like that. So
yeah,
yeah, I really found that informative for one. So yeah. So what about the competitions? You see yourself getting in a lot more competitions now that you're uh
yeah. Um,
was it
I'm gonna
enjoyable?
do. Oh yeah, it was. I had a blast. It was this last one was held in Springfield, Missouri, and I think it's been there the last 2 or 3 times. They skipped one year because of COVID, and then
Yeah.
they last year was the first year they've come back and done it. But I think they've had it up in Springfield, Illinois, also in the past. But the convention center in relation to the hotel and just things to do around there, Bass Pro, Johnny Morris Nature Museum. It's a good location. It's a good
Yeah.
central location. For me, it was
Yeah.
only a 4 hour drive. I mean, there's people. The guy that won best in show, and he won 3 or 4 things for a permit that he carved, and he was from Sweden. But
Wow.
there was guys from Sweden. I think there was somebody there from South Korea. Um, I can't remember. There was 5 or 6 countries there, and it used to be a lot of people from Canada, but Canada wasn't letting anybody out of the country to come
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anybody there from Canada this year,
Yeah.
but there's usually quite a few from Canada, but they're from all over the country, all over the United States, um, and then all over the world.
Yeah. How did you find out about the competition? And did you just do a search for it or did you know about it
No,
already?
a friend of mine that I met through the power carving group, David Okonski. I'm going to have to give a shout out to Dave because he's been really helpful to me. I've never met him in person. He lives in New York, but we talk almost daily. But he's the one that sent me patterns, and he's given me tips and tricks, and he's trained some guys. He does classes, and he had a couple students that went to the world competition and won. And he told me one day that he said, "Man, you need to get in this competition because these guys won, and your stuff is way better than what they done."
Yeah.
So, but he told me about it, so I started researching it and found it, and then it was about 2 years out. I mean, I was about 2 years out, or about a year out. Sorry, not 2 years, but it. So I decided I'd go ahead and sign up and do it, and I got busy on a couple pieces to enter in it.
Yeah. Now, is there a charge for entering or?
Yeah, I think it was. I want to say it was $135 entry fee, and then there's a per piece charge, which I think was $85 per piece.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
the the bad thing is I didn't win any money. For
Yeah.
the the novice division doesn't have a cash prize. One of the
Okay.
judges uh, did give me a certificate to take one of his online seminars that he does
Okay.
occasionally,
That's
so which
cool.
was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But intermediate and the open division get, I think the first place and best of show get cash prizes.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So it's almost like pro and AMI, like pro and
Pretty much,
amateur
yeah.
levels. That's cool.
I have
Yeah.
to move up next time. I have to move up
That was my
since I
next
played.
question. If you
Yeah,
were, if you have to move up when you,
yeah.
because you like too good for the novice now.
I
Yeah.
started to go. They asked me when I signed up, do you want to get somebody to look at your work to determine where it should go, and I said, no, I'm going to go in the novice. And after the competition, one of the judges told me, he said, you should have entered the intermediate. You would have won the intermediate for first place and best of show with the bass.
Wow.
So I should have entered the intermediate, but
Yeah.
so next time I'll go intermediate.
Yeah. So I know, like, when you carve things and you create a thing, and then everybody wants one, so then you got to create another one. And that, when you look at your work, and then you go and look at the guys, like the pros per se, do you like see things that they do that you're like, oh man, that I didn't think of that when I was creating mine?
Absolutely. There was some phenomenal pieces down there. I mean, I honestly did not think I was going to place.
Yeah.
Just because there was just so much good work out there, and there's at one point you get to go in before the crowd gets there, and you get to go through and look at the pieces up close. And there were some guys down there that just, I mean, they look absolutely real. I mean, just look like a skin mount taxidermy.
Yeah.
It's just amazing at the detail they put in. Some of them put into it.
Yeah.
But it caused what the good thing was, it caused me to look at that detail.
Right.
Like I didn't do it on the walleye, but if you look at a scale, it has little growth rings on it. There was guys putting the growth rings on the scales on some of theirs. Wow. So the next bass I do, I'm going to put the growth rings on every individual scale.
Yeah. Now they're actually carved, or do you paint them?
They're carved. They're carved.
Wow.
No, they're carved in.
Wow. That's
They
cool.
burn the scales, and then they use I don't know, some of them may burn them in, some of them may just use a real fine tip diamond ball or something to put the low speed, putting the growth rings on it.
Yeah. So if a person starts off carving a fish, and how much time does one of those big fish take you to actually do?
Well, the first fish, that crappie, took me maybe 80 hours. The bluegill took me 80 hours. I think the next one I done was a trout, rainbow trout, and I got it done in about 40 hours. And so I'm thinking, hey, I'm getting this down. But after I started really looking at other carvers' work, the masters, and started seeing the detail, I started taking my time and putting more detail in. Like the crappie took me 150 hours.
Yeah.
The bass took me 250 hours. So and I think I spent 150 hours or so on this walleye.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's like
I'm slowing down and forcing myself to pay more attention to that.
Right.
detail.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like when you carve something and then you get done, and you're like, oh man, I should have, especially once you put the paint on it. It's like when I usually see things in my carvings, like after I paint, and I'm like, man, I should have done this, or I should have done this different.
Oh, I do that every time.
So a lot of times, people are like, how long did it take you to carve that cowboy? It's like, well, I didn't sit down and just carve this cowboy from a block of wood all the way to a finished piece painted. I'll sit it down on the shelf, and then I'll pick it up a different time, and I'll take a different look at it, and take a little different look at it again. And then even after you always get done with a carving, it seems like there's always that one thing where you're like, I think next time I do it, I'm going to do this different, or I'm going to add this little more detail in it. And I think that just comes from experience, Yeah,
the more you do it, the more you learn. I mean, that's what my friend David told me. The more you do it, the better you get, and the more detail you start paying attention to. And like I say, I've drawn and painted bass all my life, but I've never, and and do detailed work on it. But I've never paid attention to that detail like I have until I started carving.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easy to put the detail in with a brush. It's a different thing putting it in with a
Right.
knife
Yeah. To get that
a
dimension,
carving
that
bit.
the
Yeah,
3 dimension
yeah,
shape that you see actually with the eye. It's fun though. It really is. I mean, that's how you grow, and I'm looking
yeah.
forward to get started on mine. I'm actually working on a crawfish because it kind of goes back to what you were telling me in the beginning. Is like start at your base of what your base is and look like. So I started
Mhm.
my first actual one that I'm going to put on my scene is a crawfish. I figure I want to have a couple crawfish at the bottom of it. And I thought, well, I'll start with the crawfish, um, and I'll do that. And then I'll just kind of work my way up. So it sounds like that's what you're supposed to do, evidently. But,
Yeah.
you always want to get started on the other
Yeah, jump
projects.
right into the big. Yeah, jump into
Yeah.
the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can do. Um, So as far as like if when I'm say for instance creating my scene, um, what's good ideas to use as like the cover or say like the underwater stuff that you might see, say the bluegills there, and you see a little bit of grass behind him or in front of him or that. What do you have any tips on what would be good to use on your scenery?
Well, of course, in competition, it has to all be wood. Um,
Okay.
but there is divisions where you can use um, other materials. There were some guys down there that were using like they would cut up an aluminum can and cut it into grass strips so they could bend it and then they would paint it.
Hmm.
Um, but that's in a different division,
So
freestyle division or something.
in competition, everything has to be wood. So
Yeah, pretty
if you
much,
if
except for the
you
eyes.
if you had a driftwood, would you be able to like purchase a piece of driftwood or find a piece of driftwood, or would that?
They don't even want you to. Yeah, they if they know it's a added piece like that, they it won't get as many points.
Okay.
I did the crappie that I did that I had in the competition. The piece of wood that it's on, I actually carved it out of a piece of 2x6 and just textured it, rounded it up, textured it, and stuck it on there. And the judge, when he looked at it, the one that I told you that Bob Berry, the one that looked at it and tore it apart,
Yeah.
he said, "You can't just stick a piece of wood on them." I said, "I carved that wood." So I think he was taken back a little bit. You can't just
Yeah.
put rocks and gravel in there. So I made the gravel and the rocks also. He
Okay.
had to do a second.
That's
So,
yeah. That's cool. That's cool.
and I got a video on how to do that too. So go over and check
Awesome.
that out.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Danny, we're rolling up on like 50 minutes. So I wanted
Okay.
to give everybody a quick look at your channel here. This is Danny's channel. It's Danny Harris Arts on YouTube. Um, Wild Impressions, Wildlife Art, and Wood Carvings. Go over there and check out his channel. He's got a bunch of good videos on there. Like you said, I just enjoyed watching him. Start from a piece of wood and do all the work from the beginning to the end, and then to see him go into competition, which was really interesting. And I'm sure if you follow his channel, I'm sure he's gonna be getting into some more competitions and doing different types of wildlife. Um, is that it, Danny? Are you just gonna stick to fish, or are you gonna do your
Uh,
videos
I'm probably
on
going to
other
be.
wildlife?
It's probably going to be predominantly fish because
Yeah,
that's kind of my passion is the fish.
yeah,
Like I like I say I deer hunt, but I do. So I've wanted to do a deer.
yeah,
I don't know how many I'm going to do though. I'm probably going to
yeah,
stick to more fish than
yeah,
anything.
yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate you spending the time with us and uh, giving me the interview. Like I said, guys, if you haven't went over and checked out Danny's channel, jump over there, give it a watch, give it a hit, subscribe. He's at I think he's around 400 almost 500 subscribers. So I know we can get him over 1,000. All you guys that watch my channel, you guys are great supporters of everything. And whenever I bring somebody on, you know, you guys always jump over there and help them out. And I appreciate Danny spending his time with me for the interview, and hope you guys enjoyed it. And I know you'll enjoy watching him, especially painting. I really found that really really informational was watching him do his painting. And Danny, you do great work, man. Keep up the good work, and I'm gonna look forward to talking to you when I start on my projects,
Well,
and getting you as maybe my mentor into
I don't know about
into
that.
the fish carving community. And maybe maybe one day you'll be up there in the pro level, and I'll be like, hey, he's my buddy. That's my guy right there. So, um, but I appreciate it, Danny. Is there any thing you want to give a shout out to, or any people you want to thank?
Maybe check out my Facebook page. It's Wild Impressions Wood Carving by Danny Harris. If you want
Okay.
to, a lot of times I may post just a little picture of a little sneak peek of what I'm doing on
Heck yeah.
a video. So
Heck yeah. And guys,
uh,
I'll put all Danny's links in the description of the video, so you can hop down there and hit up on all of his social media and his Facebook and his YouTube channel. And but Danny, like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time out and talking about your art. And again, you do great work, man, and I appreciate it. So
well, I
guys,
appreciate your kind words.
if you haven't subscribed to this channel, I know YouTube always says that 70% of my viewers are not subscribers. So you know, that's crazy, but I understand if you don't want to subscribe. But you know, it really helps all of us out, all of us YouTubers out, to get out there and get more people in our community, carving community, and help everybody's channels grow, so we can have a bigger presence on YouTube as a carving community. But appreciate all you guys watching, and until next time, we'll see you again on the Carving Chatter. Thanks.